The Charlotte Ledger Podcast is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Tony Messia with the Charlotte Ledger, and you're listening to the Charlotte Ledger Podcast. You can find out more about the Charlotte Ledger at thecharlotteledger.com. Today's episode of the Charlotte Ledger Podcast is sponsored by Hopeway, a nonprofit mental health organization offering life-changing treatment and education. On Wednesday, September 18th, 2024, Hopeway is hosting an event with Alexi Pappas, an acclaimed Olympian, best-selling author, and filmmaker. Alexi will share her story of mental resilience and the lessons she learned along the way. This is an event you don't want to miss. To purchase tickets, visit hopeway.org. Today, I'm talking with Keith Stanley, President and CEO of University City Partners. It's a nonprofit that advocates for and plans for the improvement of University City. So today, we're going to talk about all things University City. Keith joined University City Partners in 2023. He came to Charlotte from Milwaukee, where he was the executive director of Near West Side Partners, a community organization that spearheaded revitalization, community cohesion, and neighborhood sustainability efforts. Keith, welcome.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Well, thanks for coming on. I definitely want to talk about things going on in University City. I want to talk about University City Partners. But first, I want to talk a little bit about you. What was it that made you want to move from Milwaukee, which is a great city, to Charlotte?
I don't know if others have had this experience, but I was on my second or third interview for this position, and I was just trying to get a feel of Charlotte and what it meant. It was late July, late August, actually, of 22. And I walked out, Tony, and I saw the topography of this beautiful city, and it was a beautiful day. And the work that was presented to me was basically the same work I was doing in Milwaukee. And I kept telling myself, I think I have an opportunity to bring creative ideas and concepts and innovation to a new city. And it allowed me this opportunity afforded me the opportunity to bet on myself. And growing up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, being born and raised, I knew every single angle, every single corner, every single intersection. And I kept thinking, could I work to do something similar that was accomplished in Milwaukee and try it here in Charlotte, starting all over? And I said, go for it. And so that's really my story of how I really made the decision to come here. And it's been great. I have a very strong board. The search committee was really helpful. The city has been welcoming and really encouraging. I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn, but it's definitely a dynamic, growing city. And I appreciate the opportunity to work in this market that I would consider not as mature as Milwaukee. So there's some things I can do that I probably couldn't do in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's great. I love the idea of sort of, taking things that you've done elsewhere and seeing, can I replicate them? Can I build on them and do things that are similar here, but in a sort of a new environment? I want to talk a little bit about your organization,
Yes.
University City Partners. And so for people who might not be familiar with it, they might notice that it has a name that's sort of similar to other organizations in town, like Charlotte Center City Partners or South Park Community Partners. You sort of see a thread of partners there. So my understanding is that they're set up similarly in that University City Partners administers a special taxing district in University City that's known as a municipal service district. And that's where your organization largely gets its money from. And then you have staff and programs that are supported by that advocate for making the area better. So if, for example, Mecklenburg County is talking about redoing a branch of the library, it's like, okay, let's make sure we're at the table for those conversations. Or if developers want to do something, it's saying, okay, here's where you might want to do that. This is what we'd like to do here. It's sort of helping that process along. Or maybe it's underwriting a farmer's market or a wine festival, something like that. So it's basically you're leading a staff that wakes up every day thinking, how do I make this area better? Is that about right? I mean, how do you think about what you and your organization do?
Tony, you hit the nail on the head. This organization, University City Partners, our focus every day we wake up is how do we make sure that University City is working for everyone? That's our students at UNC Charlotte or at Julius Chambers High School. It's our business employers and employees, our employees at Wells Fargo or now Vanguard coming into the form of the Centene building. It's our renters, it's our homeowners. How does this work? And I will use two words. First, the common good. So when you think about an MSD or Business Improvement District, how do we make sure that everyone has their own campus and has their own focus as far as their business and their development? but it's the in between. It's the gray area. It's the places and spaces in between your home and your work. And that's what we focus in on, making sure we have the greenways and parks that people enjoy, making sure we have the arts and culture, and we have a voice around economic development activities. So there are some economic development trends that we don't want to see in University City. So we want to make sure that we're able to create a vision. I would consider us stewards of University City, ambassadors of University City, making sure that it works for everybody. Last term I would use, I think that for those of us of a certain age, remember, we're a mall manager. We necessarily don't have a roof above that 10 square miles of University City, but we still are concerned about vacancies, promotions, safety and security, what business complements, what apartment complex complements. That is what's important to us. So you can consider us somewhat of a mall manager for University City.
I'm just curious, what do you consider to be University City? Because you have, on the one hand, very defined boundaries of the municipal service district. But then it seems like before, when I've talked to people from University City, they say, well, basically it spans essentially all of Northeast Charlotte, Mallard Creek, down
Yep.
to, certainly UNC Charlotte. I mean, what do you consider your area?
So the MSD proper, which is where we have the taxing authority per the state to tax commercial properties, is about 10 square miles. But University City itself, the trade area, this is per CoStar data, is about 63 square miles, represents about 100,000 employees, about 185,000 residents, and of course the 30,000 students. It's a large swath of Northeast Charlotte. And so I would consider the MSD to really be what I would consider our proper area as far as the boundary, but we definitely are interested and we will investigate trends, economic trends and things that are happening in the trade area. And we support communities within the trade area. So we'll work with HOAs, we'll work with businesses and things in the trade area. So I would say, for sake of the conversation here, we go all as far as north as the county line, and then we go as far as south as we butt up against Sugar Creek and Hidden Valley, north and south. On the west, we butt up against Mount Holly Springs, and then to the east, we cut off a little bit, about a half a mile east of 49 or University City Boulevard. So it's a large swath of area. We are the largest MSD geographically, I should say, within the city of Charlotte.
Yeah, how do you see University City fitting into the rest of Charlotte? Like, my theory on sort of how Charlotte is laid out is, and I don't know if you've noticed this since you've been here, but it seems like there's a lot of attention and a lot of focus on what's going on in Uptown, South End, Plaza Midwood, sort of close to the center city. And everywhere else, there are a lot of people who live out there. There are a lot of businesses in other parts of the city, but they don't necessarily get as much, feel like they're maybe more under the radar, or they're not on the radar as much necessarily. And I kind of, maybe that's my bias. I live in South Charlotte. I get up to University City, every now and then, but but you don't always hear about things that are going on in University City. And maybe that's just a function of the size of Charlotte, and everybody sort of goes into their own, makes their own reality, lives in their own silo or something like that. But where do you see University City fitting in as part of Charlotte?
We're still testing a few things, and I'm still learning with my 18 months being here. But I will say a couple of things. One, University City really is the talent pipeline for the city of Charlotte. And to have a university that will have its R1 status, research status, which is the highest you can get in the next couple of months here in the city of Charlotte, in University City, there adds a lot of value. With 30,000 students, the number of degree programs they have, not just undergrad, but master's and doctorals, there's a value to that. But also I want to say this, and I think Tony bring up an excellent point. The story I like to tell is, if you come to our 15-acre lake here at University Place, you're going to hear languages. You're going to hear 3 or 4 different languages. You may hear Spanish speakers. There's a number of different Indian communities with several different various languages. Punjabi is just one of them. You're going to hear Chinese, Korean. What I would see with University City in particular, that is really a cool slice of diversity and culture and community in the city of Charlotte. And so I would just say, I think University City presents itself as really, Uptown may be the heart, but I consider University City the brains of Charlotte, especially when you think about University Research Park and UNC Charlotte. And this is where it's still accessible. It's still a community for families. It's still a community where diversity is really key for our growth.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. A lot of people don't realize, and I know people at UNC Charlotte sometimes feel this way too, that it's like people don't often realize we have one of the largest universities in the state that is in our city. And it's, I don't know, a lot of times, and maybe, I don't know, it's a geographic location or whatever, but it's like, it just seems like a lot of times people don't fully understand that and understand what that means to a city in terms of jobs and research and moving things forward. So yeah, I think that's a good point. So how would you say things are going in University City? What is the state of University City?
University City is really positioned to continue to be a growing dynamic part of Charlotte. Within the MSD, we see a 6.6% growth rate. I think for the rest of the city or in most part of the city is like a 2.95%. We're adding about 2 people to the community every year, a little bit over 2,000 folks. We represent about 20% of the Mecklenburg County's residential building permits. So 20% of the building permits are in University City. So I think University City itself is in a position of growth, especially when you think about the University Research Park. And we still have developable land in the University Research Park. We still have opportunities to really repurpose other parcels of land. The perfect example would be the $17 billion investment. Now is owned and will house about 3,000 employees for Vanguard. That is an amazing opportunity, I think, for University City as we just position ourselves that we have these assets here. So University City, I think, is well on its way to continue to be a growing, dynamic part of Charlotte.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier some of the economic trends and how you all sort of keep on top of those and are mindful of those and watch those. And you mentioned I guess we keep calling it the Centene campus. I guess we got to start calling it the Vanguard campus.
The Vanguard campus.
But, I mean, obviously one of those trends is, office space is sort of seems like it's fallen on kind of hard times right now. There's not a lot of new office space being built. Not everybody is back to work 5 days a week. That's obviously changing some things. At the same time, I think you have a lot of apartment complexes. I mean, I look at all the rezonings and a lot of the building permits. There's a lot of action going on up there. What are some of the bigger economic trends you're seeing in University City?
One, I think there's definitely a lot of room for retail growth. As I mentioned earlier, we're adding about 2,000 individuals each year. Those people need places to shop, also need places for their children, for school. I see us having room for more growth around the retail aspect, including that's been already reported. We got a couple of grocery stores coming online. There's great trends, I think, happen as far as growth, and I think that's where it's going to continue to happen. The apartment boom that we have in University City, that's all pointing towards more infrastructure, more schools. We'd love to see more growth around some of the infrastructure with the I-85, which has been announced, the I-85 North Bridge, which will connect University Research Park to UNC Charlotte and North Tryon. Yes, I would say I think we're positioned to see a lot more growth and to see more retail growth and more infrastructure.
We'll be right back. But first, today's episode of the Charlotte Ledger podcast is sponsored by Hopeway, a nonprofit mental health organization offering life-changing treatment and education. On Wednesday, September 18th, 2024, Hopeway is hosting an event with Alexi Pappas, an acclaimed Olympian, best-selling author, and filmmaker. To purchase tickets, visit hopeway.org. Talking to some developers, sometimes there's concern about the sewer capacity up there. Are they still working through that, or what's the status of that? Because I know you all are sort of tied in, I think, to Concord and some of the things they're doing. Is that limiting things in any way, or is it still?
Not for us. I think we're in a position, University City is a position, because we have relatively newer infrastructure around sewage, water, and water. We don't have the problem that we see some of our northern counterparts have. So from my understanding, I think there's even moratoriums on what's being built in certain counties. We haven't seen that yet. Luckily, knock on wood, that we have the infrastructure to hold that. I do think there will be a time for investment, and that comes along with any community. Where do we invest and how do we invest? But ultimately, right now, we're still in a good position. So you still will see development taking place. We haven't heard anything impacting some of that water infrastructure.
Okay. And you mentioned that, it's a desirable place for retailers. I mean, obviously, I think University City is known, got the IKEA up there, you got the Top Golf. Is that sort of the area you're thinking of? At one point, that was thought of as maybe an entertainment district, I think was the term that they were using. Is that the area, or are you talking about all over?
All over. So just a couple of stats. In the MSD proper, we have 14 retail centers. And within the trade area that I mentioned earlier, the larger 63, we have 25 retail shopping centers. I could see that easily growing. I think where you mentioned where Top Golf is located and IKEA and over there, definitely there is an entertainment focus. We're going to support that. We see the growth of entertainment and what's happening as far as some of the items that's coming online with Top Golf, PXG. We could see some really cool opportunities. I would say another thing that we would love to see is more breweries in University City. So I see the opportunity for us to really create an environment that works once again for all our community members. And yes, I want to see that continue to grow.
One of the big developments up there I know that's been worked on for a long time is this Water's Edge development, the shops at University Place, and I know it's in phases. Where does that stand right now, and where's that going?
With Water's Edge, we are excited to see the novel development. The novel development, a little bit over 400 units. It came online last year. We want to see more of that. We're going to lead into density within University Place, where the lake is located. And so we're hoping to see more growth with residential development around the lake. Also, to see the library, this $40 million library coming around the lake. Tony, I think with the story that's coming out of that, I think the narrative that people should pay attention to is the lake itself. The lake is on a comeback. We have reached above pre-pandemic levels when it comes to visits to the lake. We're a little over 3.4 million visitors each year. That's increasing. Once we lean into the visitors, we lean into the development around shops and adding more businesses to the shops. I think we have around 30, a little bit under 30 businesses there. There's going to be opportunity for us to continue to see growth around this lake, and that's going to be key. The lake is definitely on a comeback, if I could say that, and it's going to continue to grow. And we know the market is going to demand more, and so we're positioning University City and specifically around the lake to accommodate more. We want to see more development, specifically around residential development, because we think that is the area that it should occur. There's other areas in University City where I say I wouldn't be as excited seeing the type of density that we see around the lake, but definitely the lake can accommodate that. And that's where I think we're pushing some of that development to come. Let's build this out. It's a beautiful asset right across the street to a beautiful school. Let's build it out.
Yeah, it's pretty pleasant just to kind of walk around there. I think there's a lot of different things over there. I want to ask about the light rail. The Blue Line extension was built, up to the north a few years ago. Are you seeing a lot of development around those light rail stops?
Yes, we continue to have conversations with CATS and with CDOT, and we see the growth of transit-oriented development along North Tryon because of the rail. More to come. We're talking about residential development rather than adding thousands of units along North Tryon, along the Blue Line extension. Along with those thousands of units, we're seeing also the retail development. So we have the space, not just private owned space for commercial and retail development. We actually are working closely with CDOT and CATS with the parking structures with commercial space. And we're seeing that opportunities to bring in new businesses, give some smaller locally owned businesses a chance. So this transit-oriented development along North Tryon, the $1 billion investment that city leaders made when they made this Blue Line extension, I think is such a value add, not just to get people in and out University City, where those folks are going to Uptown or wherever they're going, but also just the development that's occurring along the Blue Line extension. And we're seeing thousands of units being built. So that is a kudos to the city leaders at the time to make that investment.
So I know you've got your eyes on a lot of things across a big area. But what are some of the things that University City Partners itself is working on? And how do you determine sort of where to put your energies? What are some of those things, and how do you determine what they are?
Tony, a great question. If you ask me that question tomorrow, I'll have a different answer. The day after, it'll be a different answer. But ultimately, though, I think there's a couple of things that guide the work that we do. First, we have our 4 pillars: arts and culture, connectivity and mobility, economic development, and then marketing and promotion. So around arts and culture, how are we activating? So we have these signature events, 7 signature events. We want to engage our community and let people have a great time and explore, get out the cars, spend money. That's our return on investment. When we do these events, we need people out their cars and enjoying themselves. So arts and culture, we also do a lot looking at murals and art installations, and how do we get people to really not look at University City as just a place to work or to live, but to really become the third place as been defined by many land planners. That place where everyone knows your name. I'm dating myself with the Cheers reference. But, how do we lean into that? The second one, though, is connectivity and mobility. We need more sidewalks. We need more infrastructure as far as bridges and streets. There's a connectivity issue that we're still working with the city on to make sure that we're well connected, but not just along the car and car-centric transportation, but also public transportation and getting people from the University Research Park to the Blue Line Extension, from the Blue Line Extension to their home and to their place of work. And so we're thinking through those things. The other two, the economic development, just making sure that we're listening and understanding the trends of economic development. What's the right mix for hotels? What's the right mix for apartments? What's the right mix for retail and commercial development, for office space? And so I think for us, every day presents an opportunity for us to make sure that we're closely connected to those four pillars and make sure we're going the right direction. I also would say that we're also guided by the city of Charlotte and the council and the visions that the mayor and the council members have to make sure that we're working closely with our city officials and city representatives to make sure it coincides with the 2040 plan. It coincides with the community development plans that's on deck, and it coincides with UDO. How does that work with us and our work? And so I think these relationships and these plans guide the work that we do.
All right, I'd like to ask you about one of those pillars, the arts and culture piece of it. What sort of things are you all doing in terms of, festivals? And this is sort of, I guess this sort of falls into the bucket of the quality of life issue for people who live there or come in for the day or something like that. But what are some of those arts and cultural events that you do, and what's the reaction to them been?
So I'm going to peel this back a little bit. I would implore your listeners to think about what makes their experience special when they think about either the neighborhood they grew up in and the neighborhood they live in now. If you take anywhere USA and you have a main street, what does that main street represent? What does it look like? Banners, flyers, posters, trash cans. What does the main street look like as far as during the holiday winter season? And so these are main street principles that we are employed in the municipal service district. We want to create a space where people feel welcome and they feel like they can come and spend time. So with our 7 signature events, we have Juneteenth Art Fest. So we work closely with the creative community to know that they are welcomed and received here, and they have a canvas, a metaphorical and a physical canvas to do their work, but also look at art installments and murals and what does that look like. We're working closely now with the local artists, University City, to do what we call the University City Book Collection, which is 4 art installments along the Barton Creek Trail and around the lake, University City Lake. So for us, what it means, I think, Tony, to go back to your original question, we want to engage the community. And these tools really are just tools to get the community to think about University City in a different light. So the 7 signature events, the art collections, the murals are all a part of us letting people know that University City is a great place to be, and we want you to come here and enjoy yourself. What's
the next big thing in University City? What is it that you're looking at that you're saying, wow, I can't wait for this thing to get going, or I can't wait for this to happen? What's the next big thing?
I would say there's 3 on my radar now. One that is close, which I've mentioned several times, is the lake. We're looking at how do we revision the lake, knowing that we have all this growth around the lake, and what does it look like? What amenities do we need to make sure we continue to go in that direction of growth and quality of development? The other one is the University Research Park. You mentioned earlier about the office space. We want to make sure as we adjust to the market and what back office space actually means, how does it work for University Research Park? And to coincide with University Research Park is UNC Charlotte. We mentioned it earlier. You mentioned it earlier. UNC Charlotte, and with its growth and what it means in the city of Charlotte, we want to continue to strengthen those relationships at UNC Charlotte. We're doing that. We're having some great conversation with the administration on a number of different things. One, once again, I'm excited about this R1 status and what that could mean for jobs and economic development for University Research Park. But also we're just leaning in on the partnerships, internships, and studies, and how do we make our community more healthier? So I think those 3 areas, the lake, URP, and UNC Charlotte, represents a lot of promise for us in the next few years.
Great. Is there anything else I didn't ask you about that you want to be known?
I would just ask people if they can, if they're interested in learning more about what we're doing. We have a great newsletter that we've been really intentional with, Tony. We have added more content, more video content, more graphics. We have some editorial pieces in this newsletter. We have 2 of them, the general newsletter and then the business newsletter. The business more focusing on infrastructure and retail and investment, while the general is focusing on our signature events and really cultural and arts and activity within University City. So I always encourage people to sign up for that newsletter. You can go to our website, universitycitypartners.org. That's University City Partners with an S, universitycitypartners.org, and a screen will pop up and they can get your signed up there.
Great. universitycitypartners.org, in case you missed it. Well, I appreciate it. Great talking to you.
I appreciate it, Tony. Thank you for the time.
Okay, that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for listening. This episode of the Charlotte Ledger Podcast is produced by Lindsey Banks. Today's episode of the Charlotte Ledger Podcast is sponsored by Hopeway, a nonprofit mental health organization offering life-changing treatment and education. On Wednesday, September 18th, 2024, Hopeway is hosting an event with Alexi Pappas, an acclaimed Olympian, best-selling author, and filmmaker. This is an event you don't want to miss. To purchase tickets, visit hopeway.org.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.